So a lot of people have been asking me, what is Transfiguration? Like, what is that? What are you doing? I know you created this new IG. What is all this about? What are you trying to accomplish? And I keep telling people, stay tuned, right? All will be revealed to you, and this is the moment, right? So Transfiguration, we're just trying to promote change in people's lives. Like, we're just trying to figure out for this generation, you know, millennials, people coming up after, how can we change our society? Like, what can we do, right? And we came up with the MRG, right? And this is what this is, like the MRG. And I'm so happy. I'm excited that you guys are here today because this is episode 1, season 1 of the MRG, right? And it's interesting how things happen, like how you meet people from all walks of life and how you come across people. And, you know, my wife and I, we really, when we were thinking about people, we really, you know, compiled a list of who we really want to be a part of this. We want people that are out there promoting change, doing things, and actually just talking about it, right? So my boy Anthony, I've known you for like 15 years now, man.
We go back, I don't even know how long, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 2019 right now, and I'm trying to think. It's been 19 years since 2000. I think we've known each other before then, to be honest. Like,
probably.
For real.
Probably. You know what? You know what's funny? Like, when we met each other, right, we were connected through sports, right? And I feel like even though sometimes people have like different teams that they really enjoy watching, there's just something about sports that brings people together, and I think that's what brought us together. Yeah. Even though we met at church, which is pretty funny.
It was basketball, really.
Basketball.
Like that's what it was. It wasn't like, oh, you root for this team, I root for that team, or whatever. It was, yo, like we love playing basketball. Like we would play after service, or we would play before, whatever it was, coming in sweaty as hell. Like, hey, we're here. Like, what's up? We had just been playing for the last hour and a half, and it was cool to see that genesis of how like we began being friends, to see like how everything transpired after that, to see where we are now. Obviously, you married, expecting a kid, like me getting married in a couple months, and it's like, man, like how fast time goes from when you start, like, for real. It's just like, boom, there it is.
Dude, I remember. So the funny thing is that we used to have a basketball hoop outside, and we come in all sweaty. On the asphalt, right? So like, if you scraped the knee, I mean, there was blood.
You were scraping a knee.
There was blood. But the cool thing was that, you know, we was gangster, right? So at that time, we were gangster, man. Like I used to have you remember those string book bags, right? So I used to have one with my deodorant, Degree. I'll never forget. I used to have that, my little deodorant. And I'd have a little spray, like one of those.
Axe, it was Axe.
I think it was Axe, yeah. Because you know the ladies, you had to smell good. Sorry, baby, but back then I didn't know you.
And, and no one ever actually liked the smell of Axe.
No
woman.
True. No one.
Like, I don't know why we all thought that was the thing.
No, I don't know. Listen, them commercials, I think that's what got us.
Yeah. Like,
it was.
They had another one too.
Washboard abs.
They had body. What was it? The body one.
It was bod, yes.
Where they had the dude come in 12-pack. He was like, "Yo, I'm here with something." We're like, "Damn, I need that."
Bod was all me. I thought it was gonna make me get abs once I sprayed it on.
Dude, it was. Yeah, man. There was something impressive about like when you see something and then you want to be that. You know, one thing that I admire is so Anthony, for people that don't know, just tell me what you've been up to lately, man.
Oh man, I can't even put into a list, man. It's been crazy the last year and a half, really 2 years. I was grinding, working sports radio, media, trying to create my voice and have my voice be something that I'm comfortable with, which is something we'll get to later, because that's a broad, sweeping topic that I think is important. But I got hit up by ESPN. I was working here locally. I got hit up by ESPN. They wanted me to come in and lead some of their podcasts coming out of Bristol. So I was in ESPN. I was up in Connecticut, Miami boy, born and raised, 25 years, 26 years, whatever I was. It was like, all right, you're coming up to Connecticut now. I was like, okay, like, let's do it. I'm always down for an adventure. I'm always cool with trying something new. And I was up in Connecticut from July of 2017 to November of 2018. Came down here, been working down here. I was blessed enough to help my dad open up his radio station, doing a lot of back-end stuff too on that. So I've been just grinding, doing that. I'm now with the Dan Leviton show. I've been working as a producer with him and with his podcast network, Leviton and Friends, which they put out, you know, a ton of different podcasts all over the spectrum of sports. So I've been doing that. I'm just grinding, man. Just trying to find creative ways to use what I think I have to help the world at least be a better place somehow. And I think that's kind of why we linked up on this, because what you're trying to do is the same thing. So kind of kindred spirits in those sense, because when you talk about the world that we live in now and just the society. And I don't want to get too deep right now because I know we got a lot to go. I'm just saying, like, the society we live in right now, it's important for people to find their voice and really go after what their truth is. And I think we have a big spectrum of what that means. And it's just important to let people know about how they can better their lives, man. And that's a lot of the time we're not finding that on social media. We're not finding 100%. That in different places. And even in our group of friends, we're not finding that. So it's important. I'm going to shut up now, but that's just kind of like my little two cents right there.
That's dope. One thing that from what you said that really stood out was that you said finding your voice.
Yeah.
And how many times have we heard like of people that they don't know what they want to do. They don't know, like they're just trying to replicate, a version of who someone else is and make it their own, right? One thing that really stood out was that you're trying to find your own voice in that, right? And, I've known you for a long time, and one thing that you've always admired is, and always like really been into is sports, right? So what do you say? Because there's a lot of, we've heard about this shut up and dribble thing. Yeah. You know how like certain athletes are saying that they're more than just an athlete, right? What do you say to the people that have to say about you, like you're on sports radio? Stick your opinion should only be relevant towards sports radio. Like you shouldn't talk about other things. Right. Yeah.
And I think there's a funny distinction in what you do and who you are, right? I think that's an important thing to say because, like, so good. Okay, I work in the media field. I'm a a D-list personality somewhere way down the
for
now, which is fine, but it's not who I am, right? Like I have so many more opinions than what I just think and what I say on the radio or what have you. And I think it's important in the whole shut up and dribble thing about being more than what you do as a profession. I think obviously we've had the conversation with LeBron. He says, I'm more than an athlete. I mean, people on media, and you can turn on whatever news channel you want to watch, CNN, Fox, whatever. And there's always some sort of backlash against LeBron. Now it's China, now it's this, now it's that. Not to get too sports, but that's obviously what's just been current event, widespread, just not even sports, just past that, And a lot of people forget what he's doing outside off the court, right? I mean, the I Promise School is something that no athlete has ever done anywhere, right? Ever. And what he's doing for kids of low socioeconomic backgrounds is crazy, right? Like that is not being reported enough. It's just being reported of when he goes against somebody who has drawn a line in the sand politically, which is, I think, it's unfortunate because we're not seeing the full scope of the human being. We're just cutting it into, all right, you said this about this person who's in this, powerful position, and that's what it is. And now we're labeling you that. So I think for me, and obviously, you've heard a lot of stuff that happens within the mothership at ESPN and how they like to make sure that they're staying on brand and not going too far off the reserve. I think it's important to try and find what your voice is, what your truth is, and what you feel is important enough for you to stick your neck out for, right? Because there's a lot of hills that we don't want to die on.
Oh, for sure.
And there's you just see it on media all the time. There's a lot of people that say, all right, I'm doing this, and it might not be the right hill, but I'm going to die on it. And then you see them fade away in a couple months, and then all of a sudden it's like, whatever happened to that guy 2 years later? Like, damn, I thought he
got bounced.
Yeah, I thought he was good. Like, what happened? And he decided to stay on a hill and die on it. And for me, it's about picking which hill I'd like to settle in and be like my zone, put my flag in and say like, all right, this is me. Like,
most definitely. Yeah.
Right. And that's important to figure out exactly what that means for you and how you can say, okay, I believe in this so strongly that I'm going to make this happen, or I'm going to do this and do that. So I think finding your voice and finding out what you really believe in is important, because there's a lot of people that just don't believe in anything. They're just kind of floating in the wind and saying, hey, like, I'm seeing stuff on Instagram, I'm seeing stuff on Twitter, like, damn, I should be more like this, or look at this person who's got all these followers and living this good life and in Gucci this and Fendi that, and like, I need to be there, man. Like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
But you don't see like after that post what they're doing in the back end, where they're miserable at home, they don't have anybody to talk to, they're just like, damn, I wish I had. That's how they live. Is that? And I'm not here to bash social media people, but you know it. Like when you take that picture and put that up, and then the after effect is not seen on social media. That's not being live streamed when you're by yourself, lonely, when you're depressed, when you're anxious. Like, that's important stuff to talk about. So people find this social media and saying, I need to have this be my life. Imagine if the phone went away. Imagine if social media went away. What do you do now? Who are you now? And that's where I'll drop it right there. Like, who are you now? If Instagram went away, Twitter went away, Facebook went away, Snapchat went away, who are you?
a much healthier person, right?
Right. Well, yeah. Some
Most
people,
likely.
Yeah.
some people, but not everybody.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, wow, that was pretty good, man. Like, you spoke so much truth there, because a lot of people can't function without that. I know I went to a few camps where one of the rules was like you can't be on your phone, and these kids it was like they were addicted.
Right.
You know, they're like, hey, what am I gonna do? Talk to people, right?
Dude.
You know, and my wife, man, baby, just first off, I'm so excited that you're here. Let me just tell you guys right now, this is out of her comfort zone. You know, her being here, being able to share, you know, and have that platform. That's a little bit uncomfortable for her. So I appreciate you coming out of your comfort zone. But, you know, I want you to talk about what you do, because a lot of people don't know what you do. And you're very secretive about it for you know, correct reasons. But tell everybody about what you do, and we'll go from there.
Work-wise, I work with human trafficking survivors. So that means these are individuals that were victims at one point of sex trafficking, labor trafficking, which is the reason why I tend to stick away from social media a lot. And it's interesting what you said, when you don't have social media, when you don't have that platform where people are seeing you, what are you doing? Who are you? And it's important to know what your mission is and what you really feel that you're going to do with your life. Because at the end of the day, when you're home alone, it's like you said, who are you? You know, are you at peace with what you're doing? So it's a huge role. And I liked what you said about, you know, knowing what you're speaking about, knowing what you're going to do, because that's where you can really stand and say whether it's right or wrong, whether what you believe in changes, because we've all changed what we believed in throughout the years. We've grown, we've developed. But the fact that you know where you're coming from, it's deep-rooted. So that's what I do. I work with human trafficking survivors. I'm blessed enough to work with an organization down here called Glory House of Miami, and we opened up a drop-in center over in Overtown. And it's just the fact that you see there's such a need out there of individuals that really, when you've got a person that was a victim at the age of 4 or 5 years old, and you're telling them there's something better out there, you've got to believe that. You got to know that you came from something, and you can really help them walk that journey out, and you're going to be there for them. It doesn't matter what camera's there or what's going on.
So can I ask a question?
Definitely.
So a lot of us, I have a friend who works in foster care, totally different, but one of the similarities I think is he says a lot of people hear the stories about these things and they're like, yo, I want to help. I want, like, this is what I want to do. And he's like, no, you might care, but you have to have the heart for it, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like you have to be able to be sustainable, right? So when did you realize that this was more than just like I care about like the struggle, and it was like, no, I actually can balance like helping these people and self-care for myself too?
That's actually a really good question, and it really comes down to taking care of what it is that you want to do. It was a journey. I started off with the plan of going to law school for criminal law. I wanted to be a prosecutor. I didn't want to defend a criminal. I was going to put people behind bars because we needed justice for crimes that had been done. But life isn't black and white. And, you know, you might have been at the wrong place at the wrong time. You see the wrong situation. And I started working at church for a while. I started getting involved, serving people, not just ministry-wise, but with different organizations in the city of a need. And when you really see what the need is, that's what's going to ignite your spark. That's what's really going to, whether it's foster care, human trafficking, homeless, there's so many issues in the world today that it doesn't matter what you do, just do something, help someone, you know? And being able to see, because a lot of people always say, well, I can't help a human trafficking survivor because I wasn't a human trafficker. Well, I wasn't trafficked. But I have a heart for women who have gone through a tough situation, and they can come out stronger. And that's why we call them survivors, not victims. Because a survivor has a purpose.
That's good.
A victim is stuck in their situation.
That's good.
So it doesn't define whether you were a foster care kid, you came from the projects, you're a victim, you were in abuse, whatever it might be. That doesn't define you. That was just a chapter. And that's where you have people come alongside you and really help you out. So it's been a journey. I don't think that there was one moment where I said, wow, this is what it is. But it was just the fact that I wanted to make a difference and I wanted to help. And human trafficking was something that became a passion for me. You know, I see these ladies that at a young age, they lost their voice, or men, unfortunately, because it's not just women, but they lost their voice at a young age and they didn't have the opportunity to speak up and make a difference about it. So now people come alongside them and help them. And when you see them thrive, when you see them that they go to school, they get their degrees, they have their kids, they're living their life where they're no longer marked by what was done to them, that speaks volumes. The fact that I can just see from the sideline, that's huge. So, you know, you are called to it. You have to have the heart for it because not everybody can work with a survivor, but there's something you can do. We all have gifts. We all have something that we've been given. So whether it's a platform to bring awareness or whether it's to help foster kids or homeless, like that's what makes the difference. Just do something that you feel passionate about.
I mean, what else can be said? You know, it's funny. My father-in-law calls her the pimp slayer. You know, and he tells everybody because I mean, we're proud. You know, we're proud of her because how many people are confident enough and ballsy enough, right, to go day in and day out and deal with the top heroin dealers in Miami, the Russian mob. Like, not many people want to, you know, say that, and to drive the car that she drives where everybody knows who she is, and she still comes in day out. I mean, that's not an easy thing, and I commend you, baby, for doing that. You know, and in this next season, you know, people have been asking us, oh, man, like, is Susie going to keep doing what she's doing because she's pregnant? You know, oh, my God, like, what's going to happen now? And talk to us about, like, what's been your biggest struggle, you know, now being pregnant, dealing with all these changes, but also the field that you're in. Like, what's been your biggest struggle, and what's been the easiest thing for you to deal with?
I think the biggest struggle is needing naps. No, I'm just kidding. I think the biggest struggle is just kind of figuring out what that next season looks like. And really it's, you know, obviously now it's not me anymore. Yeah, you know, I would walk through Overtown or whatever and I didn't care. I'm good. But now it's me and I got to take care of the baby too. Mm-hmm. So kind of looking what that next season's going to look like. I don't think I'll ever stop kind of taking the ballsy moves. It's my character. It's who I am. And somebody's got to show up for it. But I do think that there's different seasons that are going to bring change, and you kind of have to take a step back, and that's where empowering people and bringing people up is important too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can't just be a one-man show trying to make a difference, because it's really a ripple effect. You impact others, and they impact others, and you get further that way. So I think now the next season is more of not so much my boots on the ground, but more empowering people, speaking into people, building that next group up, because I'm not going to be in the same position forever. I think the easiest thing has kind of just been enjoying the process. We get so caught up in a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan, and I've had a 2, 5, 10, and then they all get thrown out the window because life happens and things change. But I do think that just being okay with change is going to come and just write it out and see how it goes and enjoy it. We really forget to enjoy the process. We want that end goal. Good. Mm-hmm. And we forget that the end goal is a glimpse of a second, but the process is what made us while we got there.
Facts.
And it's really important to enjoy that. Know who you're growing into be. You know, you don't always have to be the face of something, but just grow from it, learn, and kind of take a step back. He joked about it that not too many people know what I do, but social media, I use it to my advantage, where I can post certain things and people can celebrate with me certain seasons. But when the going gets tough, you know, it's very few people who's got to have your back and know about it.
Your circle's small. Yeah. Like, you can have 5,000 followers. That doesn't mean everybody needs to know what's going on in your life. True. Yeah. And that's the important thing to say. Like, when you have somebody that you can, and I love what you said, trust the process. I think people have a lot of problems with trusting the process, because it's like, all right, this is where I'm at now. And like, man, I have all these dreams and all these aspirations that I want to create and want to do, but that's all the way down here. Like, how do I enjoy? And I would never talk to you guys about something that I'm not dealing with myself personally. That's something that I struggle with daily, is the process, like loving the process. Because when you love the process, the whole journey, remember, the reward at the end is that you experience all throughout the journey, all the different highs and lows. And I think that's the important thing to talk about when I say I struggle with, man, I wake up and I'm like, man, am I ever going to make it to do what I want to do? Or am I going to have the success that I think that I'm going to have? And I mean, I know that everybody feels the same way. It's like, man, I have all of the, like, I want to be here, but like right now I'm nowhere close. Yeah. I'm nowhere close, but like I'm working every day towards it. And man, that loving the process is so, so, so important.
I mean, Nino, like, talk a little bit about that, how I know it could be hard, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Being an artist, right? Especially now in this society where artists are getting rewarded for maybe the way that they look, a certain persona that they might be showing that is not really who they are.
Right.
But when it comes to actual content, some people that have the content are being overlooked.
Right.
And it could be very disheartening where you're like, man, I am trusting the process. When is my time going to come? Talk a little bit about that.
So it's there's a lot of layers to that, right?
Yeah.
Like one of the things is like being solid in yourself, right? It's hard to see people be successful doing the opposite thing that you're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
And like let's say like changing your image or being unauthentic, and sometimes like you want to slip. It's like, man, maybe I should like do what they're doing. Like maybe the fact that I'm making something different, but everybody is liking like this general sound, or like outside of music artists, like people are painting and doing all these things, and it's like maybe I can do what they do.
Yeah.
Maybe I should, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the most difficult thing, is because the reason, like especially speaking for myself, like the reason I create the way I create is because I like to create that way. You know what I'm saying? I don't like to make that and it's not a dig to anybody making whatever
Sure.
they make. But it's like, this is the reason I create like this, is because this is who I am. And if I start doing this, then I start enjoying the process even less. Even though it might be the formula to get to like that end goal faster. But it's like, there's proof that it works. Like being authentic works still. You know what I'm saying? Like there's proof that being authentic will give you like the truest reward. You know what I'm saying? Like and at the end of the day, then you don't end up sitting and feeling lonely and being depressed because this whole time you've been going through a journey with a stranger. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's I think that is the hardest thing. And then the other thing is like the unknown, like that sucks. It sucks so bad. And I think like that's where I'm at in like and I think everybody, right? Like we wake up and not knowing what's next and wanting to always. So specific story for myself.
Sure.
Like this is something that I like last week I was going through, right? So I get caught up in being busy, right? And like I say busy and not productive, right? Like I just trying,
there's a difference.
you know, like so just trying to always be moving, because moving makes you feel like you're moving forward when like that doesn't necessarily mean that. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I had to sit back and realize like, man, I'm trying to create everything for myself. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to build my whole future with my own hands, and that's not my job. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and realizing that this turned into a labor. Like, you know, I think we all do what we do from like yes, it's work and sometimes it pays off and whatever, but like we started because it was like innate in us. It was our heart, like, you know what I'm saying? And so I like had to sit back and realize like this is becoming a labor to me. Like, am I enjoying doing what I say I love? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I mean, it's for people, for work, whatever. It's like that's what ends relationships. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like I feel like I'm working too hard to have like to love you.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And so that's really the realest thing. And being able to sit back and like recognize yourself in the situation and be like, okay, let me go back to my original self. Let me go back to the original way I felt about this thing and the original things I might have done to enjoy like creating this art or doing
You see,
whatever.
but that's, I don't mean to cut you off, but that's perspective, right? That's perspective that a lot of people do not have.
Yeah.
Right. What was there like a certain situation or maybe trial and error that got you to that point where you're like, okay, let me step aside from like being able to see where you're at, seeing where you're maybe screwing up, and seeing what you can do to change that?
I think I've always been like a person who likes to like see myself, like and not in like not in
I know
like,
what
I
you
like to look in the mirror, like
Damn, I look good today.
but I like to like to recognize myself in any situation, like, you know, an argument, whatever. Like that's always been me. So but like the situation here, being that, and then the situation here was when I noticed, and it's exactly what you're talking about with social media. I hate social media, but I hate it like so much. But in like this industry, social media is like
crucial.
Yeah,
it's so crucial.
You have to. And I caught myself always looking at what other people did and like lying to myself and saying it wasn't envy. You know what I'm saying? Because like having like a loving heart like this, it's literally like this is like, man, they're doing that. I'm so happy for them, man. Like, but man, that's crazy that I'm still like, and it's always I'm happy for them, but like, or, you know what I'm saying? Comparing, right?
Yeah.
And then I caught myself being on social media for hours at a time, just looking at other people's success. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it was like, man, let me put this down and like realize like, yo, I'm not. Like I'm wasting my time. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm wasting my time and I'm giving I'm giving you negative energy. Even if I don't know you personally, I've never seen you, but like I'm sending this envy your way. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like so I had this, that was it. Like when I started realizing, like, first of all, we were talking about iPhones earlier. So you can see on your iPhone, it shows you your screen time. And like my iPhone showed me how much time I actually spent on social media.
What was it? You got to tell us.
5 hours. A day,
okay.
A day. It's like, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, I know there's people who do more, but like 5 hours, like that's almost a work day, like without lunch. Like, you know what I'm saying?
True.
So like 5 hours a day, and like some of it is like work, right? You know, posting and whatever. So, but it takes 10 minutes to post. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, let's say I spent an hour a day being an artist. The rest of it was me watching other people and wanting what they had. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that was when it was like,
like I'm happy for you, mother.
Like, that was literally like, oh, I'm so happy. And like down here. And it was always, and that was a big thing too, like saying I'm happy and then like working even harder, but I wasn't working hard for my dream. I was working hard because I felt like I had to keep up with somebody else. You know what I'm saying? And somebody said it before. It's like, yo, my only competition is me. You know, and that's the moment I was like, man, I need to get back to my competition being me. Like, you know, because at the end of the day, like we're not comparable. Like, you know, we could do the exact same thing, but we're not comparable. Like our journeys are different. Like you may end up being signed to this label and whatever, and I might end up being indie and whatever. It's there's so many different avenues that we can like land at. So why am I watching what you're doing? Like
well, you know what I like about everybody that's here, and I feel like the theme here is authenticity, right? Like we're all kind of authentic in our own way, and I want, you know, whoever wants to share about this is like an open question, but you know, recently our boy Kanye came out with an album, Jesus is King.
With a project, not the album.
It's a project.
It's a full project.
I didn't realize it was a movie in theaters.
Yes,
it is. Yeah.
Yes, I didn't even know.
It's a full project.
I got an email saying, watch Jesus, and I'm like, watch? Why am I gonna watch it? It's an album, and
I haven't seen.
And then I saw like the images in the trailer, and I'm like, oh, okay, I see you, you know. And so I know there's a lot of backlash right now, like, and it's expected, right? Like the industry, anytime you do something that's different, it's like, I think part of it is because people didn't think about doing it themselves, but I also think it's because when someone goes through such a transformation, it's hard for certain people to believe that.
Yes.
Right? When you're so used to seeing something a certain way, right? Like I joke a lot, and I tell my wife, you know, some people that haven't seen me in years, they'll bring up things from my past that no longer apply to me. Like I'm not that same person.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like we're seeing a lot of that today. So anybody wants to share about it? Like, how do you guys feel about this new project that Kanye came out with?
So I'll say, so I haven't heard all of it, right? And I definitely haven't seen
27 minutes, bro. You got to get on.
Take those 5 hours and just
put it on in the background at least.
Right? And I definitely didn't see the movie either, but I want to, I think. But what I'll say is, I like it. I like the concept of it, right? But like there's this idea, like a lot of people are like, it's a money scheme, and he's just trying to get like the Christian listeners to start listening to him, and that's like the few people he doesn't have listening to him already. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like I get the whole world, yes. Like, but my thing is like there's purpose behind the message, right? Like no matter what his intent was, you know, at the end of the day, there's like right now on Twitter, Jesus is King is trending, like, right? You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, how, like, how can we be mad at that, right? Like, that's the ultimate message that's actually being put forward. And like, even if this isn't honest on Kanye's part, like, I think it's still like, whenever you do something positive, for whatever reason you do it, it's gonna take a toll on your heart. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just like when you do negative things, but so like it'll chip, like, you know, it'll chip and it'll change him slowly. And if it is truly authentic, I'm like, yo, support him in that journey. I think it'll be like, it's gonna be tough for him, like even more tough than he's ever had a journey before. Right. And like, let's like, for him to be successful in this means that he would continue to push forward and do another album. Jesus is whatever the next album's name is, and like, you know, like that. So it's dope. I think keep going.
You know what's crazy in society, and you know, sometimes I have things to say and people don't like it. And I don't say it because I want people, I have to get this off my chest. I just say it because I think we need to hear it. Sometimes people are like, oh, we have to be so loving with others. We have to be accepting. We have to be this. We have to be that. But when certain people do an album or come out with a project or come out in a movie that's not necessarily mainstream, there's always backlash. Whatever happened to loving? Whatever happened to supporting? Why is it so negative, right? And this is not like me trying to be political, but it's just the truth. Like, why can't we support everyone? We don't necessarily have to agree with what they're doing, but support them, show them love, show them compassion, give them grace. You know, and that's something that I feel like with this whole Kanye situation, there should be a lot more of that. Yeah. Right? There should definitely be a lot more of that.
And I also think, like, sorry.
It's all good.
I know you're, but I want to say, like, it's his art. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And at the end, I get it. Like, there's critics for everything.
Yeah.
But he created something. Like, it's kind of like, this is a terrible example, but like also perfect. If you have a baby and somebody comes up and is like, yo, your baby is ugly. Like, you don't do that.
We're throwing hands. We're throwing hands right there.
Right. Like, you don't
We're throwing hands.
So just like you create that, like, he created something, and it's like, it's not your place to judge it in that manner.
But like, you know what's funny? You know what's funny? People that judge other people's creations aren't creating themselves. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, when somebody talks smack about a freestyle that you do or something I do, some of you guys do, they're not creating anything. They're sitting hating at home. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, frustrated why they can't create something. That's just my piece on that. But I want to get to Jesus King. I thought it was fire.
Yeah.
From top to bottom.
Yeah.
I thought that the paradigm shift between what the critics, what social media is talking about, that this is a wash Kanye album. You can't even listen to this. This isn't anything, right? This isn't Kanye. I think that they're looking at it from a perspective of a hip hop album, a rap album. Right. It's not that. It's a gospel album. It's a Christian album. Like, the paradigm has shifted. Kanye is not making music for that realm, at least in this project. This is something that he's continuing with the Sunday services, with now the movie, with now it's going to go on tour, and it's going to be visually incredible. Like, talk about creating art. Like, Kanye, for as crazy as we want to call him and for all the weird things that he does, like, he can put together visually, like, stuff that nobody's ever done before.
Most def. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I thought the album was fire. I thought everything was good about it. I thought the messages were good. The beats were, like, everything was good. Yeah. The problem is now the backlash of people that, again, don't create, that don't care about the message, that if this was a different message of a different religion, let's say, would it be accepted? Would it be thought of differently than what it is now? And I think that's a valid question to say. Another thing I have to say, if Kanye wouldn't have come out, and again, he has a trajectory of his life and of his discography where, remember, this is a guy that made Jesus Walks. Like, that was the first banger certified of, like, yo, wait a second, Jesus Walks. Like, okay, let's ride that. Like, let's go, you know? And that was what, 2004?
Yeah, about that time.
2003, 2004. But again, he was hip with the message when George Bush hates black people. Right? And everybody was like, yeah, let's go. Like, let's ride. Like, that's good. Now, all these years later, now him wearing a red MAGA hat, has that changed the perception of people on Kanye? If he wouldn't have done that, would Jesus is King be riding right now on everybody's list?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Sure. And like that's what we got to look at. Like, that's the stuff that's real that people don't want to talk about. It's like, if this wouldn't have happened, would everything still be good with Kanye? Again, as weird and as Kardashian as, you know, all that stuff.
That's a verb now.
Yeah. You are Kardashian. As if that's still the case, but he wouldn't have done that and wouldn't have celebrated that. Yeah. Would everything be different? And I absolutely 100% agree with things would be different if he wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Right? Like the music would have been received differently. Same
likely.
message, same music, same album would have been received differently. And I think that's the problem with our culture is that once you align yourself with that side, like everything you do is done.
Yeah.
Like I don't mess with anything you do now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's again going back to what you're saying is that what about, you know, the tolerance? What about love? What about supporting people? We've gotten to a place in society now that we become so tolerant, right?
Yeah.
We become so tolerant. I'm going to do it here so people can watch, right? We become so tolerant that we're going around a globe of intolerance now on the way back. Because we're so tolerant that like, yo, hold on, wait a second. Like, that's cool, you're doing that, but like that offends me. Wait a second. Like I'm so tolerant about what you're doing is that I'm intolerant because I like that offends somebody else. Like we've gone through the full spectrum of tolerance to now intolerance. Now everybody's intolerant about everything.
Yeah. One thing that I'm proud to have is two strong women here with us, right? That some people might be a little intolerant towards that, right? You know, recently, and I want you ladies to share about this. Recently, we had a pastor say some negative comments about one of our strong female leaders, right? Saying that she should go home instead of speaking out and ministering to people. How do you ladies feel about, you know, having someone say, oh, you have no voice because you're a female, right? You shouldn't say certain things. And I'll start with you, Sarai.
Sure. So I think we live in a time where women have acquired like this new role in society. Before it was completely different, right? But nowadays we go to school, we get prepared, we start our careers, we are professionals. So we have strong women out there. And if you're giving them the chance to succeed in the professional world or in different areas, why not give them the chance to do the same thing when it comes to Christianity, right?
Yeah.
And I think the world needs both, needs strong men, leaders that can bring the word of God to people, but you also need strong women who know about it and who can bring the word to other people as well. Not only for women, because I think for me, when I hear a good message from a woman, it inspires me, right? Like I have this little passion for like public speaking, and I haven't done it yet. But when I hear someone talking, especially about the word of God, which I'm passionate about as well, then it inspires me also to see, okay, how can I use this that I'm listening and kind of like have it in my mind so when in the future an opportunity comes, I can use that same example and apply it in my life, apply it with other people. So I think we do need women out there to preach, to talk about God, to talk about how should we be godly women in this world that it's so messed up. We're talking about social media. We're talking about critiques. Like nowadays you can't do anything because the world is looking at you, and any mistake that you make, it's huge, it's bad, and you feel so judged. So I feel we need women out there for sure, in every sense of life. Like we need examples, you know, when it comes to a personal part of your life, when it comes to a professional part with family, and then in Christianity as well. We do need both sides. So I completely feel that, you know, that comment, it's not good at all.
It's a little like one thing that I appreciate about both of you is that you're both very about empowering women. Not in a way that's like emasculating to men. Right. I appreciate that, because sometimes as men, we can feel threatened by that. Not that we should, but we can feel threatened by that. And the way that you both lead with grace and lead firmly, but not in a way that's emasculating, I honor that. But I want you to share a little bit about, because a lot of people, just like Suzette, for some reason they don't know. I know a little bit about what you do, but I want you to share about that. And while you share about that, can you speak to the people that are struggling to find their purpose, struggling to find what they want to do as far as their career, struggling to figure that out? And I want you to talk a little bit about that.
I work for a tech data company, so it's pretty cool because it's not the typical 9-to-5 type of job. It's very modern. There's a lot of innovation involved in everything we do. And when I started this position, they didn't have an HR department. And back then, I was pretty green in my career, so it was definitely a challenge to come in and kind of like put processes together and figure out what the company needed, because we were growing very rapidly, so they definitely needed that help. So it took me a little while, but now we are a big company. We have 3 offices, 3 locations here in the U.S. We have 2 locations in Latin America, and I lead the HR department, the global efforts. So I definitely love what I do because it's very dynamic. Every day something different. Every day I come up with a challenge, and I love to have a challenging job.
Who doesn't,
if not,
right?
I get bored very easily. So I love what I'm doing. And then in terms of your question, I think finding what you really want to do in life it's hard.
Yeah.
It's super important because we spend so much time working, right? And a lifetime is pretty much around 90,000 hours of your life that you
that's it?
dedicate.
So 5 times a day with Instagram, multiply.
That's not even good.
Yeah.
But it's very important that you find meaning in what you're doing. And I think sometimes it's not until you go out there and you experience something that you don't know if you really like it or not. So I think number one, something that you need to ask yourself is, is it what I'm doing? Is it taking me closer to where I want to be tomorrow? A question that my CEO loves to ask in interviews, and I love it too, is how is this job going to help you get the job that you really want? And that's something that you have to have in mind because you don't want to stay in the same place for years and years and years. You don't want to stay in your comfort zone for this long time and not grow, not have any development. You want to think about the future, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's important to have that perspective. So you need to know what do you want, where do you want to be, right?
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years, in 10 years? Maybe you don't need to have all the details. That comes, with time.
With time,
But at least
definitely.
you have to have a good idea. Okay, this is kind of like the field that I like. This is the type of people that I see myself working with. This is the type of things that I see myself doing in the future. So that's number one. And then we have been talking a little bit about, like feeling passionate about what you're doing. And I think passion involves different things. Number one is, I enjoy doing this more than I enjoy doing anything else. That's number one. Number two, I'm really good at it. You have to be realistic, right? You don't want to get into something that you don't really have the skills or it's not your strength. So you want to be good at that. The other one is like you feel that you're making an impact. You feel that you're making a difference. And for me, making an impact might be different from what it means to you, right? You don't need to, feed the poor, like do something like really big to make an impact. You can be doing something else and still have your impact some way or another. So that's another one. So I feel like when you have all of that aligned and when you have personal satisfaction out of it, that all together means, okay, you found something that you're passionate about, that has meaning, that pretty much is your purpose in life as well. So I think you have to think about those two things.
Yeah.
Where I'm at today, is it taking me where I want to be tomorrow? And am I really enjoying what I'm doing? And honestly, if the answer is no, let's say you currently have a job and you find yourself in that situation where you say no, that's completely fine. Again, sometimes it's not until you get there and you actually have that real work experience
There you go.
that you don't know. I think it's important to get that outside perspective, especially from someone who knows you, right? Because sometimes you get so focused on something that there's no way that on your own you're going to find out unless something happens and then you find out. So it's good to have like people that care about you, that love you, that are able to say, look, I love that you are coming up with this, that you have this initiative, but don't you think that maybe this route will be better because this, and that? Right. I think that's important. We need people like that in our lives because sometimes
we can't have yes men around us. We need people that are going to push us and tell us, hey, that might not work, but I got you anyway.
Right.
Let's figure this out.
But what about the opposite side of the coin? What about people that we know that have passion, that have a passion for something, that have skill in something, yet don't want to look for it and don't want to do it? The complete opposite of that question is somebody who has all the talent in the world in this one specific corner of what they can do, whether it be comedy or music or whatever.
Yeah.
And they don't want to pursue it. What about those people? That's an important thing. Like, because you can lead a horse to water. It's like, hey, you want this. Like, this is important. Like, come over here and drink some of this. Like, I'm good. Like,
It tastes good.
Like, I'm scared of, like, for somebody like you to come out and put on social media, like put on freestyles, like that there's people just like you sitting out there being, man, this is whack, man. Yeah. Like, come on, man. Like, when is this guy gonna give up? Like, just hate watching what you do.
If there's anybody like that about this, we'll get there.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Because there's people out there, like, nobody is.
There's trolls.
Like, there's people out there that probably don't like anything that I do, and that's fine. Like, I don't care.
I don't like your face.
You know, like, for maybe, I don't know. But it goes to the fact of how do you push somebody to make something out of themselves when you see the talent in them, yet they're afraid of what other people think. They're afraid of going out on stage. They're afraid of doing this, being behind a camera, doing whatever. Like, that's an important thing. There's a lot of people that have a lot of talent that never, like, imagine how many people we would have in the world that had a ton of amazing gifts and were able to do a bunch of stuff that just never did.
So
I think it's timing, though.
Yeah.
Like, timing's a big one, because Gio mentioned in the beginning before I spoke that, you know, this isn't really my comfort zone. And most of it is not so much because of putting my thoughts out there, because I can be very, very open with my thoughts and how I feel about things. But it's,
She ain't lying.
no, I'm going to be straight up with people. But it's also the fact of where I feel that I'm at. So what I'm doing, a lot of what, like for career-wise, a lot of my stuff, it's easier behind the scenes. When nobody knows what I'm doing, where I'm at, who I'm talking to, it works better that way. I can hide a little easier and get through the crowd. But I think also it comes with the seasons and the time.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, okay, I spent my time doing that. But now if I'm going to go out and empower people and talk to people, I actually have to talk to them.
Right.
And I have to get
Right.
the thoughts out there. So I think that a lot of it is part of trusting the process. You're going to grow through it. You're not going to be ready right off the bat. You know, there's been times where I was told, oh, we need you to go, you know, share about awareness to a small group. I showed up, there was 500 people. I'm like, this is not small.
Group.
Like,
Which one's the big
I
one?
was like 12 people. I'm like, where's a small person?
Yeah.
Children, anything? But it's the fact that led me. I was there. I had to do it.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
you got to step up to the plate.
Forces
and,
you out
and
of
do
your
it.
comfort zone
Right.
very
It does.
quickly when they tell you, yeah, there's 500 people in the other room and you got to talk about awareness. Like, what's up? All right, let's go.
Well, there was one time I literally
Right.
called them. I said, there are 500 people sitting here, all corporate, and I'm about to speak to them about human trafficking, which is not really like, hey, so, you know, shopping.
Let's
you know,
do
it's not the easiest topic to share about.
Yeah.
But that's prepared me in a sense where next Friday I'm speaking to 1,000 people.
Right.
So, you know, at 500, I was freaking out. And the other day I was telling him in the car, I was like, there are 1,000 people showing up to this event. He's like, okay, so? I'm like, yeah, but it's 1,000 people.
just 500 times 2.
That's all it is.
Exactly. Just, you know,
ain't
look at the
nothing.
500 in the front row. No, but it'll take time. And I think a lot of times we try to push people. And one question he said was, women in society, if you're not, you know, excuse my language, but if you're not a badass and you're not pushing a certain agenda, you're seen as weak. But then it's not weak to stay quiet at the right time. Like knowing what to
True.
say, when to say it, that's not weak. That's just being wise.
Right.
And
That's
the
so
problem is
good.
that you have to, in certain society, in certain aspects of society, you have to act like a man would act. You have to act tough. No, I just got to be myself. Whether you like it or not, I'm gonna make moves. You can either keep up or you can stay behind.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, now there's women and men making a difference. And now when we see like the Kanye thing and stuff, are you allowing people to change? Because a lot of times we're saying, oh, we want you to step into your role. We want you to step into your purpose, make a difference, have a platform.
But not that much. Hold on.
Yeah,
Slow down there.
Whoa.
Slow down there, buddy.
Start, it's like, oh, really? You're the one that's going to do
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Well, didn't you want change? Let me let me step into the change. I might fail, but let me do it.
Right.
So I think that's also a really important fact of it, that many times we forget people are trying to grow and they might fail, they might mess up, and they might fall. Let them get back up and they'll get there. You know, we've all had we've tried stuff and we're like, this is going to be the best thing ever. And we're like, no, maybe not,
All
you
the
know,
time.
but that's part of it. Now we're here,
Yeah.
you know? So I think it's all about timing and process and just letting people get
Yeah.
there.
I also think so outside of being an artist, I also I'm an arts educator, right? I go into different spaces in the community and I teach like kids, adults, whatever. And one of the most recent realizations that I came to, right, is you'll come across some of the most talented, especially usually this is kids, right?
Yeah.
Like adults, they've already like they figured out like, hey, this is either for me or it's not. But like you'll come across kids who are so good at what they do, or so good at what you're telling them to do, right? Better yet,
Yeah.
but they don't want to do it. And the craziest realization one time was, just because you're good at it doesn't mean that it's for you to do, though. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Truth.
like there's been kids who like they'll just because it's like, okay, I'm in the classroom and like you're telling me to write a poem, so I'm gonna write a poem. Like, you know what I'm saying? And they write this poem that's probably better than anything I've even written. Like, you know, and I'm like,
Maybe.
all right, cool. Like, and they're like, yeah, but I don't do this. And then like earlier in like me doing this, I'd be like, no, but you need to, you got to, whatever. And then after a while, I realized it's like, you know, sometimes it's okay for it to for it to just be for you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like these kids are like, no, I only write when like, you know, I'm feeling something and my emotions and I don't really want to share this with anybody.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, yeah, that's actually okay. Like maybe one day you'll open this notebook and you want to share it with the rest of the world. Like I went to this, like workshop thing, and this lady said it's not art until you share it with somebody else. And I was like, is that? I was like, I'm like, it's like a tough thing to think about, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, and that's okay though. If like whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I'm like, it's okay for you to keep it for yourself. It's okay for you to be selfish sometimes, like, you know. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, and
But it's also important to push through what you think is not good. And then what I like about what she said is, if it's not art if you don't share it with somebody, there's a lot of times that people hold stuff back because they're afraid of reaction, right? True. So if like you put something out there and be like, one person was like, okay, this isn't that great. But then a lot of people, the thing is, we have an issue with the silent majority.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people mess with what you're doing. They just don't tell you. The loudest people are always the people that have negative stuff to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like you put something out there and like, this is art. This is my creation. Jesus is king. Like this is it. You know what I mean? You got the negative voices, but the people that really mess with what you're doing just support you from silence, which is tough, but I think it's important to share what you have, because
it's true. You don't know who you're going to impact.
Exactly.
Yep. And on that note, I'm going to ask you, Nino, to take us home. Before you do that,
Okay.
So I met Nino it's Mar Nino, but I call him Nino.
Yeah.
3 or 4 years ago, we were at an event with foster kids.
Yeah. I forget the name of it.
His house.
Yeah, that's what it was.
We were there, and we just connected. And, you know, one of the things that I appreciate is when I can get around people and I just meet them, and then instantly there's like, okay, I know I can vibe with this person.
Yeah.
And I'm sure like everyone watching this right now or hearing this, they're probably like, okay, this guy's a rapper. I want to hear. Right. So I told Nino I wanted him to be a part of this, and he was like on board from the get. So why don't you spit something for us to take us home?
So we were originally going to do a beat, but I want to see if it's cool, like change it up and just do something like
Whatever you want,
cool.
brother.
All right. Yeah.
Up to you.
Yeah. So just something old. I think it'll work. I apologize to my lover. Swear I never have the time. Like the watch was the son of God. Let her know I love her. I'm spending more time trying to get on like Ultron, and come on, I'm a step away from television, but she don't really miss him, cause he ain't the one she trying to hold in the arm. And see, the fame ain't the same when you living alone. I told her we have times like this. Told her ain't no time like this. I'm showing her what hindsight is, but we don't even really have the time that serious. When it's time I dip, there's a might die grip, and I must digress, man. It's hard, I guess, and I guess things change. It's like the blue black dress. Yes.
Come on, man. Let's go. Yo, if anybody trolls you with that, bro.
You know, it's funny though. Like that's one thing I don't struggle with as an artist. Trolls. Like, because trolls are trolls.
Yeah,
you know
it is. You can't control that.
Yeah, you can't control a troll.
Hey, man. I real talk, I appreciate you guys for being here, man. It means a lot to us that you guys are here, and looking forward to doing this again with you guys soon. Thank you.